The RNLI. If you can just explain sort of what goes on inside this room?
Certainly, yes. The room that we're in now is the single room that Weston-super-Mare has for the crew to get changed prior to going out on a service or before exercise. It's also the briefing room, it's also the workshop, and it's really a Weston-super-Mare perhaps operating at the edge of the standards that we'd expect to provide for our very valuable volunteer lifeboat crew.
If the RNLI is to remain at its base at Birnbeck Pier, major work would be needed. The charity has installed a new slipway on the north side of the island so boats can launch in high and low tide. But Mr. Carey told the Mercury that having the equipment outside is not ideal in terms of maintenance. The primary function, obviously, is to get a lifeboat to sea 24/7, but maintenance costs are higher because boats are exposed to the elements. The divisional inspector, who covers the south right down to the Channel Islands, says Weston's RNLI crew is working in the worst conditions in his patch. So this is basically a one-stop shop for everything that happens with the RNLI. In an ideal world, how would this be divided up into separate rooms?
Well, what we'd like to provide for our crews is the standards suitable for them to carry out their life-saving role. So what we'd like to do at Weston-super-Mare in the fullness of time is improve the facilities to be able to provide a dedicated crew training room, a dedicated changing facility and dedicated workshop space for maintaining the boats. Coupled with that, the boats at Weston-super-Mare currently live outside 24/7. What we really would strive to achieve is to get those boats housed inside when they're not operating so that we can maintain them better too.
So Adrian, if you can just explain sort of, this is obviously where the boots and everything is, so what would crew members do when they came into the room to get changed?
If there was a service call, the crewman has his pager on him and he downs tools at work, whatever he's doing, and rushes to the lifeboat station as safely as he can. And when he comes into this room, he will find the equipment that he needs to change into in order to carry out his job. And behind the blue screens here is that equipment. And it starts off with a warm thermal layer underneath, which we call a woolly bear, which keeps the crewman nice and warm when he's going out into the teeth of the gale. And you can also see here the waterproof suits. We call them Typhoon suits, made by a company called Typhoon. And they are a completely waterproof suit which protects them from the elements whilst they're on the boat. On top of that, a very important piece of safety equipment is a life jacket. So every crewman is equipped with a life jacket which he will wear at all times, he or she at all times when they're afloat, and a safety helmet as well. So they come in here and they're getting changed into that equipment whilst just upstairs in a very small office, the lifeboat operations manager or the launching authority will be receiving a call from the Coast Guard, getting information on the casualty, on the job that these guys have to go out and do. So whilst they're getting changed, the operations manager will come down and he will brief them on the go as to where they've got to go, what the casualty is, and what it is that they can expect when they actually get on scene with the casualty.
What's the sort of timing from sort of someone getting the page on their waist to actually being here and in the sea? What's the usual sort of? Do you have something to aim for, or is there?
Well, we do. We try, if possible, to launch within notification of a casualty. So that's the time that the Coast Guard will push the buttons to request the crew to launch, and the pager going off. We expect the lifeboat to be launching within about 10 minutes of that. So that's pretty quick to actually get to the lifeboat station, get here, get changed, get briefed, and get afloat. And the crews are incredibly quick at doing that. And I'm always amazed because sometimes I'll be at a lifeboat station when there is a call going on, and the crew will arrive and be changed long before I am. So they're much better at it than me. This is the old boat hall where the Atlantic lifeboat used to be launched from. It's the remnants of the old all-weather lifeboats that used to be launched on a slipway, and it was converted to accept the rigid inflatable Atlantic class lifeboat. And it used to be sat on a carriage and it would launch down the slipway into the water here. Unfortunately, the slipway now is really beyond economical repair, so we've stopped using it. And we've moved to a different launch site, which you'll see later on, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's a hard, solid slipway, which allows us to use a tractor instead to push the boat on its carriage into the water and launch that way. So really this is just a bit of history, really, which has been remained as part of the lifeboat station, and very good in its day, but we don't use it anymore. What I'd like to show you now is where the lifeboats and the launching equipment are actually kept, which is outside. So the tractors that are used to launch the lifeboats and the boats themselves are kept in a secure compound, but unfortunately exposed to the elements, which isn't ideal, and we'd like to improve that situation. And what we'll then go on to see is the slipway that we launch off itself. So the new slipway, it's a temporary arrangement at the moment that we use, but it does give us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week launching capability, whatever the state of the tide. So if you'd like to follow me, we'll go and have a look at that now. We're outside in the boat compound, and what you can see are the two lifeboats that Weston Mercury operate. There's a B-class or Atlantic class inshore lifeboat, which is a twin-engined rigid inflatable boat, and that is launched using a Marinised tractor, which we're stood next to at the moment. And over on the other side, we have a D-class 16-foot fully inflatable lifeboat, and that's launched using an all-terrain soft track vehicle. Both these vehicles are inshore lifeboats, so they're designed exactly for the operating conditions that are found in Weston Supermare. The B-class has a top speed of 32 knots, and the D-class has a top speed of 25 knots. And they're extremely versatile, life-saving pieces of equipment.
Okay, so we're here now on the slipway. So when the crew got a call, what would happen here then?
Well, this is the launch ramp which we've recently improved. You can see some of the boulders here which we use to protect the looser stones, which are very susceptible to getting washed away by the strong tides that you get here in the Bristol Channel. So we've done some work on this recently to improve it. And what happens when the boats are ready to launch is that the tractors will push the boats down the hill into and towards the water, and just before they're ready to launch there'll be a final check of the boats to make sure that the engines are running okay, that all the equipment works, and that they know exactly what the task is, and a final check with the Coast Guard just to make sure that there isn't an update on the person or the vessel that's in difficulties. The boats will then launch one at a time from here, and the tractor will be able to make its way back up the ramp again. And this is now able to give us access, as I say, any state of tide, to a safe launch of the lifeboats.